Welcome to video number 11 of how to make POS system, and in today's video we are going to focus on VBA programming. So in the last 10 videos, if you haven't watched this series, 10 videos already uploaded, if you haven't watched those, I would strongly recommend you to go ahead and watch those videos as well, so you know that what we are trying to create here. So in the last video, as I said, we created dynamic form and I've created rest of the forms as an offline, because you don't need to see it's the same procedure to create the form. So I have created forms. For example, I've created employees form, expense form, right? Employees form, expenses form, invoice form, where the invoicing information will be stored. And then I've created the payroll form, and then payroll lines, and products, right? Purchase order to purchase the inventory, that's the form I've created, and the supplier form. So all of these forms are based on the table, the database that we have created. So every table have got its own form, and now in this video and beyond we are going to focus on how to do programming for each and every form. So I will see that how many videos we can make. I don't want to make the video more than 30 minutes, because my analytics shows that no one watches my videos more than 5 minutes. So I would think that I would make shorter videos, maybe that would be appealing to public. But anyway, I will try to make it as compact as possible, but my idea is to explain as much as possible while I'm making anything. So here we go, the first form that we are going to code, and we are going to start from the first form, right? And we will go till the end, and I'll see how many forms we can do the coding for today, and then rest maybe we can do in the next couple of videos. So let's start with the categories form. So I'll open, double click open, and it has one field only, and each form has a editable and non-editable fields. So non-editable fields like category ID is a non-editable field, which means we don't need to do coding for that particular field. Editable field, of course we have to give the category name, and then only we can save the category. Without name, the category should not be saved. So that's the logic we need to build behind this particular form, and it has only one button called save data. So I'm going to go ahead and right click on the form, design view, go to the design view, and we'll click on the button save data, and we'll go to event, and I would like to create an on click event. So I'll click on ellipsis ... and we'll get a builder dialog, and in it I'm going to choose code builder. I'll click OK, and here we are in VBA editor. So first thing I would like to do is I would like to give a code block for the error handling, and I find it very useful, because if in case there is an error in coding or there is an error in something, that code block helps us to understand what kind of error is that. So I have already copied the code of error handling. I'll just copy and paste in there, right? I have demonstrated this in my previous videos, so that's why I'm not demonstrating again. If you want to see VBA coding, basics of VBA coding, I have another series of Microsoft Access. You can go ahead and watch that VBA coding tutorials there as well. But this is the code for error handling. Within this code block we will do our coding. So what logic we want to build? Coding is all about understanding what logic you want to build in a particular form or particular window, and that logic will determine what kind of code you have to write. So in this form, the logic is straightforward, that the user have to provide the category name. This field cannot be empty. And then if user will type in any kind of category name, then user will be able to save the data. Otherwise, user will get error that, hey, please provide the category name. So this is the least amount of requirements for this particular form. So that's the logic we want to build. So we need to start with if is null code block for this particular field. So we'll say if is null me dot category dot value, okay, is equal to true, then toCMD dot beep message box. So give a message box. What message box? Well, we want to give a message box, please provide the category name. Category, what is happening? Category name to proceed further. Okay, and this will be VB critical, and the title would be information. All right, so this is the message box which the user would see. And after user would click OK, I want the cursor to go to straight to this field, so user can straight go ahead and start typing it. So we will bring the cursor on this field, me dot category dot set focus, right? So basically, if I have to explain it again, what we did just now is we have written code to check if user has written something in this, if this field is filled in with some sort of information, some sort of characters, whether it's alphabets or numeric values, whatever it is there any information in here or not? If not, then throw this message, throw this error that please provide the category name to proceed further. And then once the user will click OK on the message box, then it should set focus automatically to this field, so user would know that which field they have missed. So that's the logic we have built. But if somebody has written something in here, somebody has typed in something in here, then what should happen? Well, then it should save it. Else, else in straightforward scenario, do cmd dot save, do cmd dot beep, and then message box. What message box? The category has successfully been created, comma, this will be VB information, comma, and it would be information. Okay, and then we will end the if block with end if. So that's the code we have completed for this form. So we'll debug it, save it, close it, test it. The next thing you do is test it. Okay, so let's say without typing, if I will do something, I'll click on save data. Boom, you get a message. Please provide the category name to proceed further. Watch what happens when I click OK. What happened? The cursor automatically gone to the category field, right? And now I can type in, I can create a category. So let's say, for example, what category we can create? Well, we'll say personal care category, right? And I'll click on save, and then it will say the category has successfully been created. That's it, simple as that. So we have done the coding, we have done the testing as well at same time, whether everything is according to our logics that we have built in or not, and it is working, right? So that's how you do it. You do the coding and then you test it. Now let's move on to the next form. So this form doesn't require any coding yet. This form requires coding, but we will see it later. This will be in fact the last form which we are going to focus on. This form also would be one of the last form which we will focus on while we are doing coding, VBA coding. Let's do VBA coding for this form, employees information. Now in this form, the logic is straightforward. Some of the fields are mandatory, such as employee name, father name, national ID card number, perhaps, yeah, mandatory. Mobile number is mandatory. Address is mandatory. So when you're hiring someone, you need to have this kind of information, correct? So that's why these fields are mandatory. Designation is perhaps mandatory. Basic salary is mandatory. Allowances mandatory. Salary, total salary is mandatory. Well, this is auto calculation. User ID and password is mandatory, and the start date is mandatory. Okay, so these fields are mandatory, and we will do the coding for this. Okay, so there are two buttons, save data and mark inactive. So let's go ahead and do the save data, coding behind save data. So we'll simply click on save data button. We'll go to the event tab, on click event, ellipsis, ... code builder, and here we go. So error handling, the first thing I always do is bring in the error handling code, and it is quite helpful. And in here we will again start building our logic if is null. Okay, so we will see one by one that each of these field one by one we will look at: employee name, father name, CNIC, mobile, home number. Home number is not mandatory. Address is mandatory. Designation, basic salary, allowances, these are mandatory. So we will look at these, and then accordingly we will proceed further. All right, so let's start. If is null, me dot employee name dot value is equal to true, then do cmd dot beep message box, please provide the name of the employee to proceed further. Okay, comma, VBA critical, comma, information. So my keyboard is messing up as usual. And then we will set the focus also, me dot employee name dot set focus. So what we have done just now, as we did in the last form, we have checked if there is anything typed in by user in this particular field or not. If not, then throw this error that please provide the name of the employee to proceed further. And then once the user will click on message box, okay, then the cursor should automatically move in to this particular field. And similarly, likewise, we are going to check for each of these mandatory fields, and then we will come to the solution. Come to the end of the coding. Okay, so next field to check is father name, and then we'll say else if, right, because we are still continuing to check, so that's why else if is null, me dot father name dot value is equal to true, then toCMD.beep message box. So again, we'll provide the same message box. Please provide the father name of the employee to proceed further. All right, and the message box will be critical, and it would be an information. Again, we'll set the focus in the field. Right, so now we have checked the second field. Likewise, we will do the third one, and then we will move on to the rest. So what I would like to do, if you are learning, please do not do the next step which I'm going to do now. If you know this coding, then you can. So copy it, then paste it. I do this because I'm no longer learning. Well, I'm learning, but at this level, this particular kind of coding I know already, so I'm allowed to copy, right? But if you're learning, please avoid copying because you would not know. Please provide the CNIC or any national identity card in your area, whatever name is used. So we'll set the focus. Boom, that's it. So a little bit of modification in the code that we have copied, and then we are good to go. Next, mobile number. So we'll change it here, me.mobile. It's only the field that we have to change and the message box that we have to change. Please provide the mobile number of the employee to proceed further. And in here also. Okay, cool. We'll copy that. And next is address. So me.address. Please provide the address. And in here also we'll change it. Oops, we are doing one mistake here. Dot set focus. Right, that's the code, not value. Okay, and next field, designation. So me.designation. Please provide the designation of the employee to proceed further. We'll copy this. So this makes our life easy, right? Once you have written one code block, copy and paste and do just a little bit of modification, then you are good to go. Basic salary. So we want basic salary as well. Please provide the basic salary information of the employee. Copy that, paste in here. Okay, then we have allowances. me.allowances. Oh, allowances. Paste in here. Please provide the salary allowances information. You know, sometimes companies would like to give away some allowances as well. Salary field is, I think, auto calculated, so we don't need to provide. Well, user ID and password we do need to provide, so that means we have to provide the user ID. Please provide the user ID of the employee to proceed further, and then password. Okay, please provide the password. Of the employee. Right, so what we have done, we have covered everything, and that is it. Start date also, I believe. Yeah, start date also is mandatory. So it could be today, could be after a week or after a month, whatever the start date, we need to provide the information. Start date. Please provide the start date of the employee to proceed further. So quite a big chunk of code, but that is necessary. That's why we have done that, right? Now if everything is filled in, everything is provided, then what is the next step? Well, straightforward, save the information, right? And we will save the information by saying else do cmd. Sorry, before saving we have to provide the status, and we have to provide the status date info. So me dot status dot value is equal to active, me dot status date dot value is equal to now. So whenever this employee was created, that's the date and time should be provided in here. And after that, to cmd dot save, to cmd dot beep message box, the employee has been created and has been marked as active employee, right? So VB information, not VB critical, because everything went well. Information. After this, we will close the code with endif. Let's debug it, save it. Yeah, well done. Okay, cool. Right, let's go ahead and test it. Yeah, please provide the employee name. So what name should we provide? Let's say we'll say employee 1. If I click on save data again, then it is saying, hey, provide the father name. So we are testing one by one, right? I'll say father 1, CNIC number. So that's also asking provide some sort of ID. And here we go. Now if we'll save, it will say provide the mobile number of the employee. So we'll provide the mobile number, whatever. Home number is not mandatory if I'll save. Okay, so I have to remove these values. If I'll save again, it will say address, please provide the address. So address is somewhere in the world. That's the address. Designation, so some designation, because we are creating the dummy information, so that's why. Basic salary, yeah, it is giving a message of basic salary. Let's say 8,000 is the basic salary. Allowances, let's say 2,000 allowances, and it is total salary is 10,000. Next it is asking user ID, so we'll say employee 1, password is employee 1. Save, and it is asking provide the start date. So let's say this employee is going to start on 31st of July. So if I'll save now, if everything is good in our code, then it should save without any problem, and we should get the status and status date as well. Here we go. So it is saying the employee has been created and has been marked as active employee. Perfect. So employee has been created, so this information has been stored, and the status date and time is also created. Now next thing I would like to do is I would like to do coding behind this button. So mark inactive. So when the employee is gone or has left the organization, then of course that employee should be marked as inactive, and in that case inactive date should be the last date, right? When the employee will be marked inactive, that will be the last date. So we can choose what is the last date of the employee working here. So for example, resign today, and perhaps maybe next month 20th will be the last working day for that employee. So we can select and we can mark that employee as inactive. So let's go ahead and do the coding behind inactive button. Ellipsis dot 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 code builder, and here we will copy our error handling and we'll paste in here. Now this is a short code. The first logic we have to see, if there is no employee information, if there is no employee has been selected to mark inactive, then it should throw an error saying, hey, this action cannot be performed because there is no one you have selected whom you want to mark inactive. So that's the logic number 1 which we are going to build. The second logic is that that employee has to be active employee. Of course, if that employee has status active, then it will be marked as inactive. If that person is already inactive, then he or she should not be able to mark inactive again, right? And while doing that, we have to provide the end date as well. So 3 logics we want to build, and then based on that we will do the coding, right? So let's go ahead and do the coding, and we'll go back to the VB editor. In here, if is null, me dot employee name dot value is equal to true, then to cmd dot beep message box, please choose an employee whom you would like to mark inactive. Okay, VB critical. Well, these messages you can change based on your requirements. These, whatever I'm showing you, demonstrating, is just an example, right? Of course, you can choose your own messaging, what you want to show it. The other logic is that employee has to be active, then only it can be marked as inactive. Else if me dot status is equal to already inactive, right, then throw a message box saying, hey, this employee is already marked as inactive. The selected employee has already been marked as inactive. Why are you doing it again? Simple logic, right? Third logic we would like to build is the end date. and that logic will be else if is null me dot end date dot value is equal to is equal to where we are doing mistake, here, is equal to true, then through a message, please choose the last working day of the employee in order to proceed further, and we would like to bring the cursor in me dot end date dot set focus. If these three logics are false, right, then you proceed and you mark that employee as inactive. Else, now here we can give some sort of confirmation message. You know, sometimes it can happen that by mistake somebody clicks on this button instead of clicking here, let's say, because these buttons are both are together, so somebody may have by mistakenly click on this button. So even in that case, the user should get an error, confirmation error. Hey, are you sure that you want this employee to be inactive? Are you sure about that? Through a confirmation message. And that logic I think we should build in here. And how do we build that logic? Well, after else we'll say dim response as integer. So we'll create a dim, right? And then we will tell what is the response equal to. Response equal to message box, right? What is the message box? The message box would be, are you sure? Are you sure to mark the selected employee as inactive? Question mark, comma, and then we will ask VB question plus VB yes no. So in message box the user will get yes or no, two options, right? Comma, and here we will say choose an option. That will be the title, and close the parentheses. Now this code that we have just written, these 2 lines of code, this code is to throw a confirmation message before proceeding further, and I think that's a good way, and a user will appreciate that. As I mentioned, somebody can by mistake click on this button, and somebody can mark an active employee as inactive by mistake, and so IT have to reverse that, and it could be a big procedure down the line as well. So to avoid that kind of mistakes, how about throwing a confirmation message and then let the user choose whether yes they want to mark that particular employee inactive or not. So here we will say if response is equal to VB yes, then if user will choose yes, then what should be done? Then, well, simple, do cmd.beep message box, through a message box, the employee has been marked inactive, comma, VB critical, sorry, VB information, comma, information. Well, before this, we have to do something else as well. We have to change the status. me.status dot value is equal to inactive. me.status date dot value is equal to now. If user will choose no, then do nothing. That's what needs to happen, and we'll close it with end if, another end if. There you go. So that's the logic. Debug it, save it. Now let's go ahead and test it. So we have already selected an employee, but we haven't chosen a date, end date. So let's click on mark inactive. What it says, please choose the last working day of the employee in order to proceed further. So last working day, let's say today. Okay, now we have chosen the last working day, and we will mark that employee as inactive. So if everything goes well, now it should throw a confirmation message. So I'll click on mark inactive, and it is throwing a confirmation message. Are you sure to mark the selected employee as inactive? Let's say if I'll say no, sorry, I by mistake I clicked on it, nothing will happen, right? It will not be marked as inactive. If I will click again, and now let's mark this employee as inactive. So I'll click on yes, and it is saying the employee has been marked inactive, and rest assured you can see the employee has been marked inactive. Now one more logic we have built in, and that logic was, if the employee is already marked inactive, then if somebody clicks here, then throw a message saying, hey, that employee has already been marked inactive, why are you trying to do that again? So let's go ahead and test that out, and rest assured the selected employee has already been marked as inactive. Cool. So that's these are the logics we wanted to build, and that's how user-friendly software should be. And I think we'll close this video now, and when we come back in the next video, we'll cover some of the more forms to give some more idea about the VBA coding, and it might help someone somewhere. That would be great. Anyway, if you haven't watched the first 10 videos in this series, I would strongly recommend you to do that. If you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, go ahead and do that. Subscribe, hit the red big button, subscribe, and like the video. If you like the content, if you like whatever you have seen, then hit the like button and tell me in the comments below, what did you learn, what did you not learn, and hit the bell icon so you get notification whenever I upload any video. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. I will see you in the next one.